The forests here are under threat.
We're going to go down and see some of the worst deer damage in the Dandenong Ranges, and areas like this are replicated across the whole state, unfortunately.
My guide is Jordan Crook from the Victorian National Parks Association. Right, this is dense, Jordan.
Yes, definitely.
Sambar deer have eaten much of the young native vegetation in this area.
There's no next generation of tree ferns here, it's just the big ones. The smaller ones get overbrowsed and die essentially, which is what some of these smaller ones are. So the rubbing of the antlers has killed the living tissue of the tree and has rubbed back the tree to the heartwood, which is when the disease can get in there and rot it out. Yeah, it's led to it falling apart here. Dead one, dead one, dead one.
Introduced in Australia for hunting in the early 1800s, wild deer species have now spread to almost every state and territory. As the deer populations have grown, so has the damage to native habitats and ecosystems. Do deer belong in the Australian landscape?
They're here to stay. It doesn't matter whether you have a philosophical or ideological view that they should be here or shouldn't.
Deer are not Australian. They never have been. They are wiping out native wildlife, but they are protected.
It's estimated there are more than 1 million deer in Victoria alone, many more across the country. Victoria and Tasmania remain the only two states which continue to classify the animals as a game resource for hunting rather than a pest to be managed.
Keeping that protection stands in the way of landholders taking effective control of deer.
Following a review of the state's Wildlife Act, an expert panel recommended the deer be classified as a pest animal. Late last year, the Victorian government chose to keep deer listed as a protected species for hunting, saying the current arrangements are not a barrier to effective deer control. Was this the right call?
Absolutely, yeah. It basically enables the licensing of hunters and the control of hunting in the state. It doesn't really impact on the control of deer.
That's just not true. On the ground, that listing doesn't just get in the way of effective deer control, but it also sets a cultural precedent that these deer are somehow native and they're meant to be here.
Well, we're heading down to a creek in the national park here. This is where many of the deer here like to wallow and cool down, but we're told it's causing serious damage to the water system.
And you can see the quality of the water drops right off and becomes very murky and dirty.
What should this look like?
We should be in a dark area right now, but the canopy has been very open by the loss of all the sassafras trees and the austral mulberries and the bunyala and the like that the deer have ring-barked. You're seeing the ecosystem being pulled apart and simplified by the deer, and that's what feral species do.
Having deer in the Australian bush, and this will be controversial, the antis will hate this, but they actually contribute to biodiversity. It's additional species.
They're removing young plants from forest floors.
Yes.
And preventing the new generation of new plants.
Yeah.
And simplifying the forest.
Yeah, and that's a valid concern, and this is one of the impacts that deer do have and can have.
But that's reducing biodiversity.
Yeah, but this is where management comes in. Deer are here to stay in Victoria.
I think they need to be declared a pest. They need to be taken off the Wildlife Act as a protected species.
How much damage have deer cost you over the years, do you think?
I think it would be in excess of $1 million over that time.
Frank O'Danner's vineyard in Hoddles Creek was planted more than 30 years ago, but over the past 15 years, deer have ruined some of his prized vintages.
When they go through, and they could do 15 tonnes of grapes in one night. I think if we didn't have deer fencing, then this business would not be sustainable, to be honest.
Right now, the responsibility of controlling deer across public and private land in Victoria is shared between all levels of government, industry, landholders and hunters. The Sporting Shooters Association of Victoria, which represents about a quarter of the state's more than 50,000 registered deer hunters, says this cohort does the heavy lifting when it comes to removing deer.
I think we were looking at 167,000 during 2024, so a really significant number of deer across the Victorian landscape.
The numbers of deer at the moment are through the roof, and if recreational shooting worked at keeping deer numbers down, it would have worked by now.
A cabinet reshuffle in Victoria has elevated Enver Erdogan as the new Minister for the Environment and Outdoor Recreation. He declined an interview with 730. A Victorian government spokesperson said it had provided $27 million since 2020 to reduce the impacts of deer.
This problem is getting bigger and bigger every year, and unless there's a solution or unless there's a remedy put forward, then we're going to have the same conversation in 10 years, but even worse.